Billy Donovan, Chicago Bulls' new head coach. Thoughts on that hiring?
I was a bit surprised, to be honest. I didn't think that they would pull the trigger so quickly, considering there's Ty Lue still out there, Jay Kidd's out there. You've got D'Antoni, who's still not re-signed with the Rockets. I thought there was a lot of better coaches who were still available that the Bulls didn't even bother with. They went straight into the Billy Donovan. Now, the roster of the Bulls is quite young, and I think this is partially the reason why they picked up Donovan. They've got the young core pieces of Levine, White, Wendell Carter, and Lauri Markkanen, who are all between the ages, I think, of 20 to 26.
It's crazy that you call Zach LaVine young. He is young.
He is young.
But I remember
I
him
think
coming
he's 24, but I feel like he's been in the
25
league
for like 10 years.
Yeah, and I feel like he's been the staple of that. Since Jimmy Butler has basically left the Bulls, he's been their best player.
I think
Zach is 25.
I might
25.
be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure Zach LaVine was on the same UCLA team as Shabazz Muhammad.
Yeah, I believe he was. And I'm pretty sure that Shabazz being out of the league when he was by far the best player on that UCLA roster shocks me. Like, I didn't think LaVine would be anywhere near as good. But the reason why I think they've picked up Donovan is because of something he hasn't shown yet in the NBA. And you're going to touch on this a bit later, but he's going back to his college roots with the players he has at the Chicago Bulls. If he can go back to that development style of coaching, I think that will put the Bulls' young players at ease and will really help improve that roster, because he's had such success at the collegiate level, but he hasn't taken that over into the NBA. So it'd be interesting to see what he does with these young sort of players, because Wendell Carter is a great player. Lauri Markkanen is an up-and-coming superstar, really, in my books. Kobe White had a great rookie campaign, and obviously Levine is pretty much established as maybe a top 50 NBA player. He shouldn't probably be a franchise player, but he's solid enough that you can get at least 20 a night out of him.
Yeah, because just going back on their draft selections, Wendell Carter Jr. was injured a lot.
Yep.
Lauri Markkanen played well in that tournament. He hasn't really done much in the NBA. He's been injured quite a bit.
He has spent a lot of time injured, especially last year.
The bigs have actually struggled at Chicago, and it's hurt them badly. Kobe White has a lot of potential. He was coming off the bench as a six-man.
Yeah, he's got to start this season. I know they had Chris Dunn, but with Chris Dunn possibly leaving the Bulls, I think he's a restricted free agent. You've got to start Kobe White. I know he's only young, so obviously it's a lot of pressure to put on him, but I think he has the ball handling skills and the high IQ plays to be able to start alongside Levine. You need someone that can score at will, and I feel like he's similar to that Dennis Schroeder style of player where he can get the bucket at will, and if he works on his jumper, I think he can really be that two-step pull-up, and then it gets a lot of that quick movement to the basket. So I would be starting Kobe White, but one of the big interesting things that obviously it's a lot more of a front office decision, but Donovan's going to have a lot to say in it, is what are they going to do with that fourth pick? Because it's not a very deep draft, but I also don't think there'll be any sort of reason to trade that fourth pick, because what they need is they need a wing. They've got Otto Porter Jr. at the moment, but he's getting paid $28 million, I believe, almost $30 million.
He's making bank.
That's the same level of pay as people like Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving. Don't get me wrong, Otto Porter Jr. has shown small chances of being a solid NBA player.
When he was at the Wizards.
But he's not worth $28 million. So they've got him for one more season. He's got a player option for this offseason, and let's be honest.
He's going to pick it up.
He ain't turning 28, almost $30 million down. So what I'm thinking is I think they need to pick Denny, and I'm going to butcher the last name, Advija of Israel in the fourth pick. Versatile wingman. Now, NBA.com scouting have said he's an all-around talented wing with great size, vertical. He can play shooting guard to power forward, great feel for the game, and possesses a high basketball IQ. Very competitive, not afraid of the big stage, a bit of a jack of all trades. I feel like this is a good project pick for the Bulls, considering they've got Porter Jr. for another season. You can bring him off the bench, have him play that 18 to 22-minute role, let him feel himself into the NBA. But similarly to people like Michael Porter Jr., he can get buckets. From everything I've been reading, in Europe, he's been playing since he was 16. He played for the Israeli under-20 national team. The man can score. It's just whether he can do that in the NBA. Yeah. So I think he's a great pickup to put behind Porter Jr. for another season, so that eventually, I think he's going to have to move on Porter Jr., or you're going to have to sign him at a lot less money. Once he moves on, you can slide Denny into that roster spot at the 3-man. And then you have Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Denny, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter as an undersized 5, or vice versa.
Because at the moment, they played Zach LaVine at the point guard, Satoransky at shooting guard, and they had Kobe off the bench. Denny is the right pick for them. I agree with that. I don't think Kobe White is going to get the starting role. He's going to take on that 6-man role. I think he should be starting. He's going to fall into an unfortunate spot where he's going to become the 6-man at the Bulls, and it's going to be his whole career. It may or may not be like that. He could move, and then you could have that James Harden where he becomes a starter.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you say 6-man, you're talking still 28 to 30 minutes. Yeah. You're not sitting him around that 20-minute mark. You're playing him starter minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like Satoransky's only getting 20, 25 minutes a game. Something about the Bulls, maybe it's changed now Donovan has come. I have a feeling they're going to try and take a point guard, a true point guard that isn't a scorer, to play with Zach LaVine at shooting guard or Kobe White.
There's a lot of good, a lot of
like Tyrese
solid
Halliburton.
point guard. That's straight away. First thing that came to mind was Halliburton in my mind. Second to that would probably be Killian Hayes.
Yeah,
you could
Theo Maledon.
Well, that's it. You could. There's a lot of guards in this draft. So what you could do is you could even trade down. You could trade down 2, 3, 4 picks and still pick up one of those guards, or even trade into the early lottery, that 10, 11 spot, and pick up Cole Anthony from North Carolina. There are some solid young point guards in this draft. They're not superstars because they're all quite young and untested, but there's a lot of not boom or bust, but sort of project players.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to go ahead. I mean, you could go ahead with LaVine at the 3, but you're not going to go ahead with anyone that you pick up in this draft starting straight away. No way.
No, not a chance.
So you're going for that high upside pick.
That's right. The Bulls, in the recent drafts, they've struggled with their picks. Kobe White looks like a solid pick, and he could have a good future in the NBA. Previously, before that, Daniel Gafford, injured.
Ugh.
Wendell Carter Jr., injured.
Yep.
Chandler Hutchinson, shooting guard, injured. Justin Patton, injured.
They've gone for a lot of big men.
Like Denzel Valentine
in
2016. Like, even I'm reading this, Bobby Portis.
Yeah, Bobby Portis. Yeah, playing at the Knicks now. They've gone for a lot of big men. So maybe it's time, as you said.
That's why
it's time to push for that guard.
Scared of it.
I just think it's hard in the NBA now to find those wing players that can do everything. And we see that those sort of wing players are very important. As I said, similar to young players that you look like Tatum. You look at Michael Porter Jr. and some of the more established guys. You're looking at DeMar DeRozan. You're looking at KD, obviously being the pinnacle of it. So the lanky, long, 6'9", 6'10", kind of shooting wings that can do a bit of everything. Yes, they're not great defensively, but they can get a bucket at any time. And I feel like the problem with the Bulls right now is they just need a scorer. I like LaVine a lot, don't get me wrong, but he can't be your best scorer on the roster. Yeah. They won't be competitive for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's right. The Bulls can't make a bad pick here based on position. They need a bit of everything, to be honest. They've had a lot of injuries to their big men. But as I said, Kobe White was a good pick. Hopefully has a good future moving forward. But going back on Billy Donovan. When he came from Kansas to Oklahoma, he inherited like an all-star team.
Yep.
KD, Westbrook made Western Conference Finals.
It was established.
It was an
established
team,
top contender. Yeah.
And at the time, because what just happened is OKC lost to the Heat in the NBA Finals, and Scott Brooks was there. And Scott Brooks didn't do much.
No.
And we all know he's at the Wizards now, not doing much.
Doing nothing. Again, a bit of Wizards hates for the fans out there.
That's it. But he's not doing much, and I feel like OKC are moving on from him because they know his capability, and he's not going to be the right coach to take them on moving forward. At the time in the NBA Finals, it's a bit... They could have hired a more high caliber coach like Doc Rivers. They could have gone pushed big for someone to try and keep their stars and then push for a finals. But they made a decision to try and bring someone up from the college. They've learned their lesson with that. Billy Donovan now has the time to prove himself as a coach of the NBA if he will last a while. He's been in the league for 5-6 years.
Yeah, he's been in there since at least 2015 now.
He's got a .608 win percentage as well.
Yeah, so he's a solid coach, but I just think the problem is when you bring that college coach up to the NBA, we saw it. Mike Krzyzewski did it, one of the greatest, if not top 2 or 3 college coaches of all time.
Yeah,
and he struggled. Rick Pitino struggled at the NBA level. We've seen so many college coaches come up and just struggle. Fred Hoiberg, I believe, from Iowa State, came into the NBA, and then he was coaching the Bulls for a portion. Billy Donovan, I don't want to see him fall away to that, and I think he's too talented to not be that. But he has to go back to his college ways of coaching with a young team like Bulls.
Yeah. Billy Donovan, he'll be in the league for a long time. What will happen is he'll build the Bulls up. They'll start making the playoffs. They'll fall short, and then they'll get a more established coach in to take them that next step. which is what Oklahoma tried to do by hiring him in the first place instead of Scott Brooks. And we all know how that ended up.
I think what we're trying to get to is that it's a pick. It's not a great pick. It's not a bad pick. It's just You don't want to spend the money. Well, I shouldn't say we want to spend the money. I just don't think an established coach would go there, like a Jay Kidd, a Ty Lue, or a D'Antoni. I don't think they want a project. They're not in that stage in their careers.
Yeah.
Donovan's willing to take a project on. It's just wait and see.
Yeah, he's fallen into the right situation for him to give him the opportunity to coach a good team. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls are a massive organization. When you think of the NBA, you think of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, it's a franchise that everyone knows around the world, and I think the problem is they're sick of losing, but they're going to be that way for another season or two at least. And I think you said to me off the podcast here, this is the first time they haven't picked a first-time coach in the NBA.
Yeah, that's right. So they haven't picked a first-time coach since, I think it's 2003, 2004.
So that's a great move, because as much as I don't think Billy Donovan is a top-tier NBA coach, he's now 5 years in, a bit more established. He knows how to play the game.
Yeah, I think the best coach they gave a chance to at the time was Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Pretty sure he won Coach of the Year there.
Yeah, and they had one of the best defensive teams that's played in the last 20 or 30 years.
He came across from the assistant at Boston.
Yeah, with Noah. I mean, he was an established assistant coach, someone that people had said had been overlooked for years. So, yeah, he's probably the exception to the rule at the Bulls, I should say. But, I mean, again, not a bad pick, not a good pick. Wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. He's fallen in a good situation. He'll have a lot to say about their future going forward.